The content of this podcast has not been evaluated by Health Canada or the FDA. It is educational in nature and should not be taken as medical advice. Always consult a qualified medical professional to see if a diet, lifestyle change, or supplement is right for you. Any supplements mentioned are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please note that the opinions of the guests or hosts are their own and may not reflect those of Advanced Orthomolecular Research Incorporated. Welcome to Supplementing Health, a podcast presented by Advanced Orthomolecular Research. We are all about applying evidence-based and effective dietary, lifestyle, and natural health product strategies for your optimal health. In each episode, we will feature very engaging clinicians and experts from the world of functional and naturopathic medicine to help achieve our mission to empower people to live their best lives naturally. I'm guessing you've probably heard of antioxidants, but do you know what they are? They're compounds that inhibit oxidation, and oxidation is a natural chemical reaction that can produce free radicals, thereby leading to a chain reaction that may damage the cells of organisms. The damage that is caused may result in increased risk of many diseases. Increasing your antioxidant intake can help reduce that risk. Introducing Peak Antioxidant Support. This formula combines PEA, which is shown to be an excellent anti-inflammatory, with a well-known and highly versatile antioxidant, arlipoic acid. Don't delay, get a bottle today at your local retailer or online at aor.ca. Welcome to Supplementing Health. Thanks for tuning in. Today we are joined by Marlon Diaz, certified nutritionist, to discuss your desires and leading a happier life. Marlon uses her deep understanding of the daily challenges faced by her creative, high-pressure, deadline-oriented executive clientele to deliver innovative solutions, unique accountability methods, simple tools, and science-based strategies that allow her clients to thrive in both their professional and their personal lives. Hi, Marlon. Thanks for chatting with me today.
Hi, Kathy. I'm so excited to be here.
So in our fast-paced society, sometimes it can seem really challenging to have it all, right? Good health, both physical and spiritual, an impactful and fulfilling career, and then of course home life as well that we get to actually enjoy. It's not just there on the side. So would you share some of the ways you help your clients achieve this balance?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. And I would start with slowing down, right? So we're in this fast-paced society, although the last year has enabled a lot of us to slow down, right? So slowing down, connecting with our breath, and then really getting clear what's important. So in chapter 2 of my book, Beyond Radiant, it's called the 3 C's: clarity, courage, and commitment. And from this place, we begin with an intention. What's important to us? And usually what's important to us is on our calendar too, right? So our calendar is a good place to start. Time is a commodity. How are we using our time? And so when I'm working with a client, I always start with the question, okay, it's 3 months from now. Our work together has been wildly successful. What does your life look like? How do you feel? What's showing up? And so from that place, they start to have, an image, a visual, and things start to come forward. And so then we go backwards, okay? So we create a bridge from here to there. How are we going to get there? What's going to be important? Putting things down in your calendar to really start to set yourself up for a day of success. And I just want to add with that, I always also talk about in the book, starting your day with morning me time. Even if you have kids or a lot of responsibilities, getting up a little earlier, taking a few minutes, whether it's having your coffee, setting an intention, picturing yourself as your future self. And then during the day, taking some breath breaks. That brings us back to slowing down, getting recentered, grounding back into the body, getting re-energized. And in the evening, have an evening wind down. But setting your day up with a little bit of structure can really start to create the life you want.
Now, like you mentioned, things have slowed down definitely with the pandemic. However, in some ways, I know for me it's been a challenging adjustment, right? Because the whole family's home with you and kids are doing online schooling too. And maybe you only have a couple computers in the house or even just one computer that everybody's trying to schedule and share. And to a certain degree can add a new element of chaos to your life that you then have to try and figure out, right, together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when you're saying add that element of schedule or structure to your life, are there certain aspects of that that you would say don't ever compromise on versus others that should be more flexible, or is that a personal decision?
I think it's personal, but we can create a day of success. And with that, I would throw in there that we need to be adaptable, right? What we used to do, what was the old normal is not the new normal. And as you were sharing, your kids might be home, some, different aspects of life are different than they were in the past. So we have to bring our mindset to the now and work with what is happening. Okay, given what is happening, how am I going to create the best day possible? And then look at what's going to be in best service to your family, what's going to be in best service to yourself, what's going to be in best flow for your day. And some days might look different. The weekends might look different than during the week. And set yourself up for priorities. Pick the three most popular things that are, or the three most important things that you must get done during your day. And with that, take breaks back to that morning me time to really visualize, okay, I'm going to set the intention for the best day possible. And with that, stay flexible too, because in this day and age, things happen. That's just life. But we can also create some structure around the day using the computers, figuring out who needs what, when, and going with the flow a little bit too, right? Because I know as humans, we can get upset or stressed if things don't go our way at times, and that creates high cortisol, which is stress hormone, which isn't always good for our health and well-being. So it's kind of like having structure, but in that structure, being flexible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then for the visualization piece that you were talking about, I think a lot of us try to put limits on our visualization, right? Because we want to be realistic. We don't want to dream about living in a castle and or kind of those grandiose visions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you identify what is your true desire if you're putting those limits on yourself and are feeling unsure about your visions or your goals or your dreams?
That's such a great question. So I want to really slow down and kind of unpack this for a moment. In fact, in front of me, I have a couple rocks, different sizes, that have words on them for inspiration. And two of them say dream on them. And I think especially when we're kids, we dream, right? A lot of us will dream, we'll spend time in our heads creating. Sometimes we can get in trouble in school when we're a kid because we're daydreaming, especially girls for some reason. And maybe we've been taught that's not a good idea to do that. But dreaming is where we create, especially as humans. It's where we spend time creating and visualizing and wanting to plan our lives. And then for some reason, if we haven't been always able to do what we want or manifest what we want, we think it's not a good idea and we limit ourselves. But honestly, from all the research and the scientific research out there now, with something called neuroplasticity, it's like really creating new grooves in the brain. We can create things that we want. We're unlimited in our potential, and we as humans many times hold our own selves back because maybe we feel unworthy of our desires, or we haven't gotten what we wanted, or I'm just going to give up on that because it never really paid off for me. So one of the things that I've been doing with clients lately and my own work with myself is sitting down, whether it's in the morning. Morning is a great time because it sets you up for your day, but it could be any time, day or night, and start to visualize the future self. Who do you want to be? What do you want to create? Start to tap into that energy and that mindset. And then from that place, take a small action step. It can be a baby step. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but let's just say your future self has your household running smoothly, you're fit and healthy, your mind is strong, you're creating prosperity in your life, you're eating really well. Maybe you're not doing those things right now, but you can visualize who that person is. How would that future self show up in her day? Is she going to have chaos in her day, or is she going to have order in her day? What's one step you can take to have more order in your day? And then you start practicing, like building a muscle at the gym or playing any kind of musical instrument. We only get better when we're practicing and we're doing it day after day. Commitment to the practice of it. We never have to be perfect. We just have to be practice. The only way we fail is if we quit. So it's a day in, day out, and staying positive. And we can talk a little bit more about how to stay positive and what to do to surround your life with people that are positive.
Do you recommend tools like hypnotherapy or meditation to help strengthen those visualization skills?
Another great question. So I'm not as super familiar with doing hypnotherapy. I know it's worked for some people, and it might be a modality that works, in some people's lives. I am more familiar and work with more mindfulness tools and meditation. Myself, I've about 6 years of mindfulness classes, from self-compassion to mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so I share that with clients when I'm working with clients. And I'll give you an example. I have one client, her name's Diana. She's weaved throughout my book. She worked with me 10 years ago and was super resistant to doing any kind of mindfulness meditation practice. Fast forward 10 years later, she came on board to work with me for a 6-month plan because she was stepping into 50 and her body was changing. She really wanted to set herself up for success for the next chapter of her life. And she started to practice 3-minute mindfulness meditation. She gave herself a timer, 3 minutes a day. And she has been practicing every single day for the last year and the year plus now. And it totally has changed her life. And so I watch my clients and myself work with meditation and mindfulness. And that skill, again, going back to neuroplasticity. And what that is, it's like when we're young and when we do things in our lives, when you do something over and over again, the brain sets like a groove. It just becomes natural, like riding a bike or driving a car. When you first start doing it, it's kind of foreign, and we have to get used to that skill. But over time, we develop that skill set. And so the brain kind of knows it. But when we're stepping into a new skill later in life, we used to think that the brain just didn't learn anything new or couldn't be adjusted after, say, the age of 25. But now we know that through research that is not true, that we can recreate, and it just takes doing it over and over and creating those new grooves and new pathways. So setting yourself up for a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice is where we start to strengthen that muscle in the brain and create a strength of a new way of doing something, so it becomes natural, where at first it feels really unnatural, but it's possible. And then you start breaking through beliefs and glass ceilings and creating a life that you always dreamed of, but somehow never seemed to be able to get there.
The notion of fate comes to mind. People believe that certain things are just fate and it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to happen regardless. And it kind of ties in with that butterfly effect idea as well, where it's like, someone else could do something and that's going to affect your life regardless. So in your opinion, to what degree do we actually control the course of our lives? And how can we look past or integrate those other notions into this taking control of our situation?
So I would say, from my experience and my beliefs and from everything I've researched through the year and have witnessed with clients and people I've worked with, is that there's things that happen in the world that are out of our control, like a pandemic, right? That happened, and it's something that we have to now adapt to. But we can control what we put on the end of our fork, or what foods we bring into our home, or how we're going to react to the stress that comes up around this pandemic, or what news we watch, or what things we let into our brains. So we as humans have free will, and we live in a country where there's some freedoms with that free will. So we're fortunate. Certain countries maybe have more limitations. And we get to decide as humans each day on some things we might not have a choice, but we have a lot of choice that is free choice. So again, what are we spending our money on? What are we watching? Who are we friends with? What relationships are in our lives? And so from that place, there might be a destiny to our lives that's kind of like out there in spiritual land. And at the same time, we do have free will each day on a lot of things. And those choices can lead us, like if one decides to sit home all the time and never walk out their door into a place of uncomfortable new horizons, we might never meet our soulmate. But if we decide, okay, I'm going to go on a dating app, I'm going to go on some dates if my friend fixes me up with someone, you're going outside of your comfort zone, and at the same time, who knows where your destiny is going to lead you, but at least you're moving forward and taking some action, and we never know. The other notion that just comes forward for me to share is it's our mindset, how we get up each day and how we look at life. Einstein said, you want to ask yourself, is the universe a friendly place or an unfriendly place? And from that place, are you open to the possibilities that life might share with you? Are you going to stay in your bubble and just do things from that place? It's like, how do you want your life to be? And what are you willing to be committed to create the life you want and desire?
I love that you talk about the comfort zone there and just kind of staying in your bubble, because I think sometimes too, we think we're pushing those limits and that we're getting outside that comfort zone, but we do it in a way that's still very much within that comfort zone, right? So it's like, yeah, I went to my door and I opened it, but I never actually stepped outside, right? So it's kind of like baby steps
Yeah.
towards getting what you want, but still getting in your own way. And so, what role does self esteem or self worth play in finding the courage to actually go beyond your comfort zone like that and take those steps to then take control and create the life you want?
A lot, with 3 exclamation marks after that. A lot in capital letters. So it takes courage to do things that are outside our comfort zone, right? From even as a young child on the playground with friends, going on monkey bars that might seem a little scary to go on when you're a kid. And it takes courage to step on a roller coaster sometimes. Sometimes people have just that get up and go and very, out there in the world and ready. Whereas another, it can be more introverted and timid. So we want to build our self-esteem, but how do we do that? By stepping out of our comfort zone and doing something that's uncomfortable. Then we get a lot of self-worth back in the sense that, wow, I just moved through something that was really scary and may have been good at it, may have been okay at it, but at the same time, I had enough courage to just try it. And so that's how people ask, like, how do you build your self-esteem? How do you build your self-worth? You do things that are uncomfortable. Personally, just something that's coming up, like I've run a couple events that were live events, and to step on a stage in the beginning with 75 or 100 people, I've spoken on stages where there's 500 people in the audience. The adrenaline's rushing in the beginning. It's a little scary to step up. Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to say the right thing? Because most of us want to do well when we do something. And then when you have some success under your belt afterwards, that's when you say, whoa, great job, Kathy. Great job, Marlon. Great job, Sally, whatever, right? You pat yourself on the back with your own hand and say, like, great job, like a mother would, like a father would, like a caretaker would, and you start building that self-esteem and self-worth. And it can be small steps, it can be large steps. We don't have to have all our self, we don't have to like be at the place where our self-worth is just booming to do something. We can be scared. And sometimes it's great to hire a coach or a trainer. I've had coaches in my life for business or life. People hire me to help them move through their fears and concerns. So sometimes it really is, or a trusted friend that can really see a blind spot and help you have encouragement, right? Or a partner that gives you encouragement to keep going. The key is, though, to keep going, even if we take a pivot or a pause, to not give up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the hardest thing sometimes is finding that motivation to keep going when it comes to big goals or celebrating the smaller milestones, finding those little pieces to be excited about that keep you driven to keep going and keep your motivation high. So when it comes to any big goal, I think it is a great idea to celebrate those smaller milestones along the way. Give yourself that pat on the back, find the reasons to be excited about it. And I assume it's probably similar when you are developing that life that you're going to live with intent and that you are reaching your dreams. Do you find there's certain milestones that people that are common that people can look to celebrate?
Sure, that can be anything. I think I was thinking about this just now as you were talking, and what came forward is even a project that we complete is a milestone to celebrate, right? How many times do we want to maybe write a book or create a business or anything, from something small or large, read a book? And we might start, and sometimes we get sidetracked and we don't finish. So completing a project is a great thing to celebrate, and that builds self-esteem as well. Also, I just want to share a client story for a moment. Like, I had a gentleman that came to work with me about 3 years ago, a man in his midlife, in his 50s, and he was drinking 3 to 4 glasses of alcohol an evening. And he's like, Marlon, can you help me? I feel terrible. I need to lose like 75 pounds. Every day, I feel like a truck's run over me when I get up in the morning. I have 5 kids, and I just need to change. Can you help me? And so I posed the question back, and first I said, yes. Are you willing to put the alcohol on the shelf for 3 weeks, 21 days, while we clean up your diet and get yourself more in alignment with a healthy lifestyle? And he said, yes, absolutely. So 21 days passed, and he was absolutely committed to his plan. And then 3 months passed, and he had lost 20 pounds at that point and still was off the alcohol. And he said to me, Marlon, you seduced me. You told me it was just going to be for 21 days. And here I am, it's 3 months now, and I feel amazing. I don't want to go back. And so now it's a year later, he lost 75 pounds, never drank alcohol in a year, and felt amazing. It's 3 years now. Now it's 4 years with 2021. And we still keep in touch. He orders some products from me here and there. But the idea is he can tap into an occasional alcohol. He kept his weight off. And the mindset was, can you do this for a small period of time? Once he tapped into, yes, I can do this and I feel better, let's keep going. So we don't have to see the whole staircase. It's just take the first step. Martin Luther King said that. Just take the first step. And from there, build. And the idea is celebrate along the way. Celebrate all the successes and the milestones, and enlist a trusted friend or, again, a coach or a trainer, or have a team, a buddy. And that's how we create our lives.
And how do you suggest someone go about finding or surrounding themselves with people who encourage them to reach their potential? Because no matter what, there's always going to be people that aren't necessarily at the same phase that you are. And whether it's intentional or not, they can and will hold you back from reaching that goal. Just because they're not in the right mindset or at the right stage or level or whatever it is, they're not vibrating at that same energy level that you are, and they're not ready to move forward with you. So how do you go about ensuring that you're surrounded with the people that will help you get to where you want to be without necessarily burning bridges, shall we say, in the process?
Mm-hmm. Super great question, Kathy. My first thought is to slow down and start looking at your life. So I would give anyone the recommendation to start to observe who are the people in your life that you're spending time with. Jim Rohn, I have this quote in my book, Jim Rohn said, we're a sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Who are the 5 people that we're spending the most time with in our lives? What is their mindset? Do we enjoy being around them? Do we feel expanded, empowered, inspired, and encouraged when we leave them? Or do we feel kind of smaller, a little less, kind of tight in our energy when we leave them? And start to just get a feel from there. And then start to spend more time with the people that you feel good around. Pull back a little bit from the people. Maybe you can't, if it's a family member, we're not going to necessarily cut that relationship off, but perhaps you text them less or talk to them less, or talk to them when you're really centered and grounded as opposed to feeling a little bit more vulnerable. Like really start to get conscious when and how you're spending time with those people. If it's a friendship, someone that's pulling you off course, or you've grown apart, or your mindset is a little bit different, pull back a little bit and maybe spend a little less time, or really just share that you're doing some projects right now and you're deep diving into your family. And, it could be a conscious decision or just something that you are sitting with. The idea is it starts with clarity. It starts with consciousness. And seek out those people that inspire you. They might even be someone on social media, someone that you're inspired by on social media. And write a little comment. Like there's some people on social media that really inspire me. So I might write a little comment saying, awesome post, or I love this, or thank you for sharing this. Of course, that's going to make someone feel good because it validates their work in the world. And then there's a connection. You can send them a little message. I've done that as well. Keep connected to those people that are doing good things in the world. And at the same time, mute out or unfollow those that no longer inspire you. And also, you can create expanders in your mind. And what's an expander? I learned this thought from someone a couple years ago. Expander is someone that's kind of creating what you want or has what you want or inspires you in some way. And they, instead of us being jealous or envious, they can be like, yes, it's possible for me to have that. There's someone that can give my brain the recognition that what I want is out there and it's possible.
While we're talking about making these shifts, in a lot of literature about manifesting your desires, it talks about letting go of past experiences that are no longer serving you, which is kind of in that same vein of, moving your energy away from those that are draining it and into areas that are helping to grow and build it and lift you up. So how do you see this notion of letting go of past experiences fitting into realizing your desires and building that ideal life?
Again, it comes back to getting conscious, right? Like figuring out what is serving you and what is no longer of value. Though those things brought us to this place of today, they're part of our life history. They're part of our life, and we can bless and release them. We can love them for the lessons they taught us, and again, release them. It's not always easy because sometimes they're weaved into the fabric of who we are and our personalities and the ways that we've been. Yet many times it's a habit, and past experience can also bring up a lot of emotion, right? There's sometimes trauma attached to it, or a way of living that we used to do that served us then but no longer does now. So again, it's stepping into more of the future you want to create and releasing the parts of ourselves that were the way we were in the past but might not be the way we were or are now. Again, I want to bring up Diana, who's weaved throughout my book. Diana talked about when she first came to work with me this last time, she felt she lost her joy and she wanted to lose 20 pounds and find her joy. She also felt she lived in a black and white world. She was either on a diet or off a diet, really good at something or really not, and there was no gray zone. So it was, how do we create a gray zone where we can be more integrated and flexible in our life? And so part of that journey was letting go of that black or white thinking, was letting go of old ways of being around food and lifestyle. It was integrating, it's okay to eat healthy, but have a dessert here and there. So everything is bringing us to this moment. My experience is, the question is, can you be with where you are with no regrets and have compassion for your life and your experience and love all the parts of yourself and use it all for growth, upliftment, and advancement?
And you mentioned being conscious about which of these experiences are helping you versus hindering you at the stage that you're at now. And sometimes our past experiences, or probably more often than not, they can actually feed into feelings of low self-confidence or unworthiness. Have you found in your practice that clients have common reasons for why they feel unworthy of their desires, or do you find it's very much individualized?
Mindset is such a big, big part of this equation. And personally, as I got more educated in mindfulness and in many of the classes that I started to take, realizing that the mindfulness piece is a huge part in someone's success. And so as I watch clients and watch miracles happen and really started to look at, why is one person successful when another keeps falling off path? So there are some common denominators, to answer your questions, that I've experienced watching humans, watching people and sharing their stories with me and their past. And many times it's because we may have been reflected back in childhood by a parent, by a teacher, by a community, that we might have been reflected that we're not good enough, but that was our own interpretation, right? Our parents were doing the best that they could. Our teachers were doing the best that they could. The system of society was doing what it knew to do. And now we're all a little bit more conscious, I think, and the internet has brought us more information so we can Google things and understand this journey more. But the idea is that many times in childhood, things were laid down and our beliefs were set up about ourselves, and they were mirrored back to us, or relationships mirrored back to us. And we may have interpreted things about ourselves and might have carried that throughout our whole life like a backpack full of rocks. And so we could have had an experience at 10 years old that set up our thinking, well, I'm not good enough, or because this boy didn't like me, or because this friend didn't allow me into the group, I'm not good enough. So every time someone in our life comes in that seems to be similar to that boy or to that girl that led the popular group, we can interpret a feeling. And sometimes it's really unconscious. And so, again, the idea is getting conscious, slowing down, becoming more mindful. And sometimes that might mean going to therapy for a little bit, hiring a coach that can help you dig into and unearth some of the things that are stopping you, or stopping us. And I just think it's collective humanness. We're going through life, we're doing the best. We've had different events that come into our life. And for some reason, like many of my clients, some of their mothers were really on top of them for their weight. They had projected their own stuff onto their daughters, and it set them up for feeling bad about themselves. They were either on a diet or off a diet. My intention is help them step into more a healthy lifestyle. So it's, again, can you be in the gray zone instead of black and white? Can you be compassionate with yourself if you fall off path for a moment and still get to your goal?
There's just two things that I really love that you called out there. And one is that we often will project past experiences onto others, right? Whether it be, an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend that maybe wronged you in some way, and then you see any little similarity in a new partnership and you start blaming them for the past one's indiscretions, right? Or sometimes, like you said, with parents or things like that. So like you have to be conscious enough that you know what you bring to the table too from your own experiences, and don't pass that on to others, blaming them for someone else's indiscretions. But then I also really liked that you talked about how sometimes it's the smallest, or what seems like a really small event, right? I've been doing a lot of reading lately about, as a child, obviously the way you perceive your world is very different than the way an adult perceives the world, right? Even if it's the exact same
Mm-hmm.
world, they don't have that same wherewithal to analyze a situation and really dig deep into the potential underlying motives, or, things like that. So the way that they absorb something, it's much more black and white, like you were saying. And so then you form all of these thoughts and opinions of the world and of yourself based on those interactions that you've had as a child. And like you said, subconsciously you carry those forward with you. And it's not until you actually start doing some of that inner work that you might go, yeah, I remember when, my parents used to mention how much I ate all the time, and I took that as they thought I was fat, when really they were
Mm-hmm.
just so excited because you were such a active kid and you were growing big and strong, and they didn't mean anything by it. They were just like, man, like you're eating a great meal again, kind of thing. Or even your grandparents or your friends, like it doesn't have to be um, a family unit member necessarily. But I think those are really great things that you called out, because people, I think, often look for those big moments in life, right? Like some major trauma, some major event that should have been the trigger of their negative self-talk or poor internal dialogue. But really, it can be a culmination of multiple different pieces. So one thing I did want to ask you about from that perspective is practicing gratitude. There's lots of research that shows that that helps to boost mood and stuff like that. But do you find it also can help to start weeding through those internal thoughts and some of those experiences and subconscious beliefs, so that you can start to find where they came from and address them accordingly?
1,000% with 3 exclamation marks. Yes, definitely. It sounds so kitschy sometimes to have a gratitude practice, and we see it all over the place. And having a gratitude practice really sets us up for looking at life through the glass half full. And so gratitude is the thing that really is the antidote for so much of what we sometimes strive and crave and want, the places we want to get to in life. If we can stop and start to look at the blessings that we have, especially look, this last year has been trying for all of us, in different ways, some greater than others. And even in it all, I'm sure there's something, whether it's water, whether it's a roof over our head, or the ability to buy food, or having a friend that calls to say, I love you. The smallest of things can help us to really appreciate the lives we have. And again, I keep going back to Diana because she's weaved throughout the book, and she shared her event of changing her life and the practices that helped her. And gratitude, every night she would write 3 things she was grateful for because she wanted to find her joy. And so one of the things that I had her do in the beginning was start to create practices that were going to help her find that joy. And so we got to the place of instilling a gratitude practice. But what did that look like? It was just three things a day that brought her gratitude and joy. So it could be 3 words, or sometimes she wrote 3 sentences in a journal or 3 paragraphs. And it could be the smallest things, like a cup of warm coffee in the morning, her daughter's smile, or the dog that came and gave her, some loving during the day. It could be 3 big things. And the idea is that we start to practice looking at what brings us joy and what we're grateful for in our day. Again, it changes our mindset. It starts to open the brain up to what's possible, creates new grooves, and we begin to look through life through a different lens and change our perspective. So I say yes, it's a huge thing. It could be where you journal it, you could write it down, you can just notice it, you can share it, you could write it on your phone in a little notepad. And the idea is to just practice this and start to, because many of us, myself included, sometimes come from a negative bias or a depressed mindset or a household that had chaos, or we've been up against some trauma or some hard times in our lives. And we can change at any moment. And I know that personally, and I've watched it in the clients and my friends and my kids. And so it's possible. And that's part of the impetus of me writing Beyond Radiant and wanting to do podcasts and share from this place to know we're creators. We could either be the creator of our lives or the victim of our life. And we get to decide. We can change at any moment. We all have the ability to do that. Is it easy? Not always. Is it possible? Yes.
Awesome. Well, I know I am grateful for this conversation today. It'll be one of the things in my journal tonight for sure. For our listeners, I know you've mentioned your book a couple times, but do you mind just repeating what the title was and letting them know where they can find it?
Absolutely. My book is called Beyond Radiant, The Modern Woman's Guide to Health, Healing, and Happiness in Midlife. And it's available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble in softback or ebook. And it's also available on my website at marlinwellness.com. We were able to get a little publisher special on the website, so available there. And yes, I'm so grateful for this conversation and for your amazing questions and for all the work that you're doing in the world and bringing enlightenment to your community and listeners.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And I also want to thank the listeners for tuning in today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Supplementing Health. For more information about our guests, past shows, and future topics, please visit aor.ca/podcast or aor.us/podcast. Do you have a topic you want us to cover? We invite you to engage with us on social media to request a future topic or email us